Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome back to Game Over Toronto. Leafs end 2024 on a high note with a 3-1 victory over the New York Islanders, taking advantage of some let's call it interesting empty net strategy by the New York Islanders in the final moment. Patrick Roy, never one you can say is not a bold person. Starting a penalty kill face off in his own zone with the empty net. That's some video game stuff. That's the sort of thing you try in a video game. That's not the sort of thing you try in an NHL game. Although, to be fair to Patrick Roy, had it worked, that might have been the most impressive, most ballsy thing we've ever seen. Unfortunately, the Leafs managed to take advantage of it. Unfortunately for the Isles, I should say. Fortunately for us here on Game Over Toronto and all of us in Leafs Nation that one worked out. Because I'll be honest, when he tried that, I know we're starting at the end of the game, but when he tried that, when Roy tries that, I'm like, if there's any team that this is going to work against, of course it would be the Toronto Maple Leafs. Of course, they would start with a face-off facing an empty net and find some way to give up the tying goal. And for there were a couple of seconds there while the puck was in the Isle zone before Tavares put it in the empty net, where I'm looking at that going like, geez, this is going to go south. This is going to go badly. The Isles, as they said on the broadcast, tried to win the face-off loss. They get it to the blue line. Jake McCabe keeps it in. Mitch Marner kind of has to make like a diving pass at one point to get it over to Tavares. And the whole time I'm thinking, this is something that drives me crazy about NHL teams. And it's not just the Leafs that do this, it's all NHL teams. Is when the net is empty, they're almost like embarrassed to shoot on it. Like nobody wants to be the one to score the empty netter goal. And so they try and pass until like there's nowhere else to put the puck but in the net. And I've never understood that. I always feel like I always feel like they should just shoot. You want to score. The goal is to put the puck in the net and to win. But they have this weird hang up about it. I don't know if it's pride. I don't know what it is. You don't see that in other leagues. I remember it's at the season opener for the Toronto Scepters this year. There was an empty net. Emma Malte grabs the puck. She skates down the ice, puts it in, seals the game for Toronto in that one. And so I was a little bit worried that was going to happen here with the constant passing and when Marner made the diving pass. Because Nylander had a shot at the empty net earlier and he just didn't take it for some reason. He was kind of covered, but he should have thrown it on net. But Tavares, he knows what to do. He's the veteran. He's kind of stepped back into being captain in the absence of Austin Matthews and puts it in the back of net, seals it. We'll go through the game in a little bit more detail in a moment. First, though, of course, welcome back to Game Over Toronto. I want to shout out the live chat right away. Luke in the chat says, I'm actually watching this from Scotiabank Arena. Great game, really fun. Well, thank you, Luke. I'm glad you got to head down to the game, and I'm really excited that you're watching and listening from the arena. That's really cool that you're there. You saw this all go down and you're like, you know what? I don't even want to wait till tomorrow when the podcast is out. I don't want to wait till I get home to watch the replay of the live feed. I'm going to watch it right now as the ushers are kicking me out of Scotiabank Arena. That's fantastic. So welcome, Luke. Welcome everybody to Game Over Toronto, the final Game Over Toronto for 2024. As we said, the Leafs ending the season on a high note with a win. My name is Dominic Jones. I'll be your host for today. And let's start. Let's go through this game. The Leafs facing the Islanders for the second time in 10 days, I should say. The last time they played was actually the last game over that I did, and it did not go this well. The Islanders won that one 6-3, kind of put the Leafs off on the wrong foot for a lot of the sort of the holiday season here, as the Leafs were coming into this one after having lost 3 in a row, and looking to not take that negativity into the new year. And the game sort of starts and the Leafs come out. It's odd, right? It's a 1:00 start. They spend a lot of time talking about this on the broadcast, that the Leafs and the Islanders, both teams, this is not their usual schedule. Hockey players are creatures of habit. They like to do things in a certain way. They have very strict routines that they stick to for their days, and this apparently is nap time for most of these guys. These grown-ass men, this is their nap time. To be fair, I wish I could take a nap at 1 o'clock in the afternoon some days, so I don't blame them for that. But it does, when we've all got our routines, and when something messes with that, it throws us off. And the opening couple of minutes kind of felt that way. It was fairly even, fairly low event hockey. I'd say the Leafs maybe were a little bit more dominant, the slightly better team, but the Islanders, I think, maybe had better chances in the early moments. And when I say chances, I mean chance. There was one pretty decent save from Joe Woll that he made on Anthony Duclair. But the story early on was the big hit from Max Pacioretty. Max Pacioretty continuing to be a physical presence. Now, maybe this is me just not having paid enough attention to Max Pacioretty over his career, but I never thought of him as like a physical player like this. I didn't think he was soft by any stretch of the imagination, but I never thought of him as, the guy who comes in and throws the big hit. And to be fair, earlier in his career, he was much more of a offensive player, much more of an offensive threat. Not that he isn't now, but he's gotten older and he's had to evolve his game. And I think it speaks very well of Max that he's been able to take this later point in his career and evolve his game into something that suits what the Toronto Maple Leafs need and what the Toronto Maple Leafs are doing. So he lays a big hit, kind of sets the tone early on for the Leafs. The Leafs, the period continues. The Leafs get, the Isles kind of start to push back, and then the Leafs draw a penalty. Marner draws a tripping penalty. Anthony Duclair heads to the box, and look, we'll spend some more time talking about the power play in a little bit, but I think if the Leafs are setting New Year's resolutions, it has to be get better at the power play, because the first minute of that power play was pretty brutal. The first unit just not getting anything done, not even getting chances, puck going down the ice, just a bad start to the power play, and that has been a trend all year. It's gotten a little bit better as the season has gone on, but we haven't seen them take the kind of steps that they need to, that are necessary for them to succeed. This team, they are not the run and gun team that they used to be. They don't score as much as they used to be. They play a lower event style of game. That's been Craig Berube's big thing that he's brought in this year. And so when you have opportunities like the power play, you need to start taking advantage of them. And the Leafs have succeeded this year largely in spite of their power play unit. And it doesn't matter if Matthews is in or Matthews isn't in. It's kind of the same story where it takes one or two tries a game for them to even get some chances. They got chances on the later ones. But this is something they'll have to work on as 2025 kicks off, because once you get to the playoffs, the number of penalties goes way, way, way down. Number of penalties goes way down, and you're not going to have enough opportunities to kind of warm up as the game goes on your power play. So not a great start in that regard. Luke in the chat saying the Leafs are noticeably less dominant on the power play. I was just going to say noticeably less on the power play, because that feels like this team. And, you're going up against the Islanders, who are the worst at penalty kills and power plays. Like they are bottom of the league when it comes to special teams. This should be an opportunity to, for your power play to pump their stats up a little bit. Alas, it was not meant to be. But the Leafs do open the scoring from, who would have guessed it? David Kampf. David Kampf opens the scoring. David's been getting the kind of the promotion in the absence of Austin Matthews, spending a lot of time playing with William Nylander, and it's working out for David Kampf, as he's said in the interview in between periods. He recognizes that this is a different sort of play than he's used to, so he's just going stick on the ice, go into the net, and wouldn't you know it, Nylander pass out from behind the net, right out in front to Kampf. Kampf snaps it home. 1-0 Leafs. Also, leading up to the play, two big blocks from Chris Tanev. Tanev coming up big with some blocks for the Leafs here, and that leads to the puck going down the other way, and the opportunity that ensues that leads to the goal. And shortly thereafter, not too much longer after that, Duar hits the post. He has a good opportunity. This is something that became a little bit of a trend for that is a trend for the Leafs, that Berube likes to put that fourth line out shortly after the goal. And as we'll talk about later, they produced some results in this game, and they nearly produced some more results here. Overall, first period, was like I said, fairly even start. The Islanders kind of started to get a little bit of control of the play as the game went on. It started to go, especially after they killed off that penalty. But the Leafs, they pushed back, and it led to the conf goal that opens the scoring. So we head into the second period. The second period, a lot happens in the second period. The number of goals allowed and goals disallowed were even in the second period. This is kind of a bit wild for a New Year's Eve game, but Pelech seemingly ties it up for the Islanders very early in the period. Nylander makes a bad giveaway, and Pelech again seemingly makes them pay. But the Leafs were watching. Their video coaches were watching, and they let Berube know right away that play was offside. He challenges it. There's no delay tactics needed while they check. None of that. Berube just right away calls the ref over, says we're challenging that very, very quickly. I think this is one of the fastest goal reviews I've ever seen. And right away, called off. No goal. Leafs retain the lead. And look, credit to the Islanders here. After the goal gets called back, they maintain and continue to apply pressure. They hem the Leafs in for over a minute. The Leafs wind up having to ice the puck because Mitch Marner loses his stick. And so the Islanders essentially have a 5-on-4.5 power play here. And they hem the Leafs in for over a minute, applying pressure, getting some chances, and Pacioretty ultimately has to ice it. And even after the faceoff, they maintain some of that pressure. There's a moment here, and we'll come back to it in a moment, with Joe Woll, where he looked like he might be dancing with an injury there. Like he might have something. He might have tweaked something. We never really returned to it in the game. It didn't become an issue, which is good, but it is something I think we'll be watching as we move into the new year. We'll return to this in the second period when we talk a little bit more about goaltending. But the Leafs finally, they start to respond. They apply some pressure and they score. Matthew Knies, he scores. He comes in off the rush. Nylander passes the puck to him. He takes a shot. Sorokin makes the save. Knies gets his own rebound. Sorokin makes the save again. Knies gets his own rebound again. This time, puts it home. Oh, this time it's Patrick Roy's turn to challenge. He challenges for goaltender interference. Again, a very fast review. Very clearly that William Nylander was in the crease, very clearly hampering Ilya Sorokin's ability to move. Was Nylander Nylander didn't really have anywhere to go. There was an Islanders player standing kind of right there, but credit to this player. He wasn't, he didn't shove Nylander into Sorokin. He didn't create a situation where there was doubt about whether or not Nylander was in the crease of his own volition. He just sort of let Nylander dig his own grave. He didn't give him anywhere to go. But he didn't sort of create a situation where the refs could justify keeping that goal on the board. So, frustrating for Matthew Knies. They've been asking him to step up a little bit, especially in the absence of Austin Matthews. He's slowed down a bit from where he was at the beginning of the year. And, this seemed like this was going to be a big confidence builder for him. Unfortunately, I will say I do think the right call was made, and the goal gets called back. And that's a shame for Knies, but hopefully he should take something from that, in the sense that he did exactly what he's supposed to do. He generated offense, he got rebounds, and he put the puck in the net. and it wasn't his fault that it was called back. It was, but so he should, take good things from this play, even though it didn't result in anything on the score sheet. Kind of a scary moment. After a few moments later, Chris Tanev takes a puck to the face, and he has to go to the dressing room immediately. In terms of pucks to the face, maybe not the scariest we've ever seen, but still, it's always an uncomfortable moment when the puck goes and hits somebody in the face. He's bleeding from his mouth. He had to go to the room right away. They had a really gross shot of him spitting his gum out as he went off the ice, and it was all bloody too. And for a moment, it was like, did he just spit out several teeth? But no, just a wad of gum. Just a wad of gum. Don't have to worry too much about that. But man, Chris Tanev, I think Chris Tanev's New Year's resolution should be to block slightly less shots. Like, we don't want him to stop blocking shots. That's his thing. That's what he's the best at. That's why we went out and got him. But I need him to block slightly less, just a few less, because we need him for the playoffs. He's going to play a big part in whatever happens this April and fingers crossed May and double fingers crossed June. Chris Tanev is going to be a huge part of that. And so we don't want him missing playoff games or going down because he blocked too many shots during the year. I think Chris Tanev, you can ease off the throttle just a little bit, not too much. Still need you to do your job, but just a little bit so that we know that you are healthy and ready come April, May, June to do the thing that you do so well, which is block shots. Because, man, anytime you see somebody bleeding from the face, it's never a good thing. Pajot then ties it a few moments later for the Islanders. Just some great passing on this play. Just great passing. Noah Dobson in particular, with just a perfect pass to Pajot. Connor Timmins almost, he came so close to breaking it up, but instead it lands on the stick of JG Pajot. Snaps it home. This one counts. Tie game, 1-1. 16 seconds later, Steven Lorentz gets one back. Leafs take it 2-1. And this one also counts. Great fourth line shift here. Leafs get the puck out of the zone. Ryan Reeves makes a terrific pass from the Leafs blue line out to Steven Lorentz at center. Lorentz makes a nice move at the blue line just after crossing it and takes a shot from distance. I suspect if there was a game over Islanders, they'd be saying Sorokin needed to have this one, but it was just a beautiful shot. Top corner also counts. Leafs back in the lead 16 seconds later, 2-1. Just excellent shift from the fourth line. Exactly what you need. Sometimes you get a little frustrated with coaches putting the fourth line out after every goal, and you think, don't you want to respond with your best players and have your best opportunities? I think it speaks very well of this version of the Leafs fourth line that they can respond with a goal like this. Look, we've talked about Ryan Reeves. He's probably, he is past his prime. He's not as effective of a player as he used to be, but he showed in this game that he can still contribute. He had a couple of decent hits. He makes this pass. He is, again, not who you want out there in most situations, but from time to time he shows why he's here. He shows why he's got a job on this team, why he's got a role on this team. And Steven Lorentz has been just such a terrific addition to this team. He brings toughness, he brings grit, he brings the ability to score a few goals. And him and Connor Dewar on the line together. Dewar hasn't provided much offense this year, but we know he's capable of it from his time in Minnesota. It does give that fourth line an added dimension where, yes, they are tough. Yes, they are gritty. Yes, they can play defensively sound when they need to. Again, Ryan Reeves is maybe the odd one out in that category. But they can surprise you and provide a little bit of offense here and there. So really good stuff from the fourth line. And we're back in the lead. Leafs back on top 2-1. We see some good play from the third line. Again, that Domi, Robertson, McMahon line hasn't quite been as dominant as it was in its first couple of games, but they're still showing. When you still see moments, you still see flashes from them. They just got to keep keep applying pressure, keep making sure that they are, putting themselves in situations to succeed. And I think by and large, they did that in this game. McMahon had a couple of chances. Robertson got a couple of moments where he was in, sort of one-on-one and, took some decent shots. Nothing too scary in this one from that line. They never really felt like they were on the verge of breaking through, but they also didn't feel like they were scrambling or in shambles or not working either. So again, keep them together. I'm game for keeping them together, and let's have them, push into the new year, see what they can do, and perhaps they'll be ready come playoff time to, continue to contribute in the way that they did earlier in the game. Palmieri takes a penalty for the Islanders. He trips Benoit, and the Leafs get another power play. The first unit again comes out there just looking useless. This is the thing that kills me about them. Like, if they were getting chances and the puck just wasn't going in, I'd be okay with sitting here and blaming, puck luck and bad luck. But they just come out there and they look like they don't know what they're doing. Like, they'll lose the face off, the puck will go down the ice, and then they can't get it in the zone. And if they do get in the zone, they lose it again. Like, they don't look even vaguely threatening. They just look useless. And again, usually by like the third penalty, third power play of the game, they'll look a bit better and maybe they'll start to get some chances, but you can't wait that long. You just can't wait that long. The second unit comes out, they look better. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just that all those guys feel like they have something to prove, or what, or if they've got less pressure on them, maybe. I don't know what it is, but the second unit almost always looks better. They very rarely score, but they usually look better and generate some more chances. I'm still a believer in breaking up the first unit and having two strong units instead of one theoretically insanely strong unit and one kind of everybody else unit. I'd like to see two more balanced units, but we'll see. Maybe Berube figures that out for 2025. The first unit does come back out there. There's enough whistles in this penalty that the first unit gets another opportunity. They come out. They look better in the last 30 seconds of the power play. Tavares has a couple of near chances where he misses empty nets. He fans on one shot and then gets a real aggressive stick check on the other that I think he thought should have been a penalty, but still no goals from the power play. But the Leafs end the period leading 2-1. We head into the third. I'm going to take a sip of water here. All right, let's head into the third. Nyes and Duclair go off for penalties. Kind of an odd play. Duclair gets called for hooking. Nyes gets called for holding the stick. I feel like that could happen on a lot of plays. I'm not sure what made this one so distinct they felt they needed to call it. Maybe it's because Nyes went down. I thought they were going to call him for some kind of embellishment. They call him for holding the stick. That is one of those. It's one of those things that I feel like happens a lot. You look at some hooking penalties and you go, that could have easily been holding the stick because the guy's got his elbow just pinned to his side, making sure that that hook remains long enough for the ref to see it. I feel like that this is the kind of thing that could happen more often, but for whatever reason happens here. 4-on-4 ensues. Nothing really happens. It was very uneventful the third period up until the last few minutes. Kind of the highlight was Anders Lee getting his stick lifted so dramatically that it left his hands and went into the third or fourth row at Scotiabank Arena. Some fans got a very interesting souvenir, and there was a nice moment in the after the whistle where Lee wanted that stick back. He wanted the one that went over the glass, so he went and traded a different one with the fans, which I credit to Anders Lee. That's a classy move. That's a classy move. Like he would have been, I think, well within his rights to just say, "Give me my stick back," and Scotiabank Arena would have sent an usher or somebody from the team to go and collect the stick and bring it back over to him. But he went himself and he made a trade because he understood, hey, that's kind of a cool souvenir. It's kind of a fun thing that happened, and good on the fan for seeing it for what it was and giving the stick back and still getting something pretty cool in return, which is just another one of his sticks, which is pretty awesome. So kind of a fun moment there. Nice little New Year's moment between the Leafs fans and the Islanders star there. But yeah, not a lot going on. Leafs not really generating anything. Obviously, the Islanders losing, so they're pushing. They're looking for more opportunities here, and instead the Leafs don't quite. But fortunately, the Leafs are closing the door. They're keeping the Islanders from scoring. They're not giving them great chances. Wool does make a few decent saves. There is a crossbar in there, but the Leafs do respond eventually with some pressure. Sorokin just robbing both Nylanders and Nyes in the same sequence. Again, Matthew Nyes, the guy should take good things from this. That should be confidence builder that you got robbed, because you should have scored on that. But a great goalie made a great save. That happens. That's the game. You got to keep putting yourself in situations where great goalies have to make great saves on you. That speaks highly of you. I think that's a good thing for Matthew and I. So hopefully he continues to take all of these things as confidence builders, even if the puck isn't actually going in the net yet for him. Pelech takes a tripping penalty on McMahon with about 5 minutes left, sending the Leafs back to the power play. This was, I think, kind of a backbreaker for the Islanders. That this cuts down on their time to try and retake the lead. And so it's, it did sort of seem like, this might be finally the time where the Leafs are going to take advantage. The Leafs are going to kind of shut things down, close the door, make sure that the Islanders don't get any more chances. But this being the Leafs, of course, the first unit comes out. They look a lot better. They look like they're generating some chances. And then Brock Nelson gets a breakaway. Brock Nelson with the breakaway. Huge save by Wall. Good, smart defensive play by Morgan Riley. He knows he can't catch Brock Nelson, but instead of tripping him or hooking him or leading to a situation where either the Islanders get a penalty, we go to 4-on-4, or Brock Nelson gets a penalty shot, he gets just enough of the puck to disrupt Nelson's, his moves and his charge to the net, that he's unable to, beat Joseph Woll. He gives Woll a little bit more of a chance. Woll makes a nice save. And Woll smartly was trying to get rid of the puck and get it back up the ice, but the ref with the quick whistle get a face off in the defensive zone, which is never a good thing on a power play. But, given the circumstance, you'll take it because it was a huge save. Again, no power play goals for the Leafs. Islanders kill it off. The Islanders pull the goalie, and then this is where we kind of return to where we started from with Nylander having almost an opportunity. He's got the puck along the boards in the offensive zone. The net is empty. 3 Islanders are converging on him. I say you throw that at the net and hope for the best. He tried to make a play. The Islanders go the other way, start looking like they're going to get chances, but that's just not how NHL players do things. I don't know. It's odd to me. It doesn't make sense. And Nylander, hasn't scored in a while. This would have broken his goalless streak, maybe put him back into, serious contention for the Rocket Richard. All these guys, Ovi, Matthews, McDavid, Gretzky, Lemieux, they all scored a whack of empty netters in their careers. I don't think that any player should feel poorly or be looked down on for not putting the puck in an empty net. But whatever. The Islanders take another penalty. This was a game for the Islanders where I think that even though the Leafs didn't capitalize on the power play, which I guess they did. Okay, I've been saying they didn't. Tavares' empty net goal counts as a power play goal. Fine. You all know what I meant. They never got a power play goal with a goalie in the net. But Islanders take a tripping penalty. They seemed annoyed with Max Pacioretty over this. I get being annoyed with Max Pacioretty. He's become kind of a shithead. He's become kind of a pest. But he got tripped. He was racing for the puck. If anything, you're mad at yourself for losing the puck and creating a situation where Patches has the opportunity to go out and grab it. He's racing for the puck at the offensive zone blue line for him. And the fact that you've put yourself in that situation means the only way out is to trip him and trip him, send him to the penalty box. And then Patrick Watt takes his time out, and we know what happened there. Pulls the goalie, starts the penalty kill with the empty net. What a sentence that is. Starts the penalty kill with an empty net, and Tavares makes him pay. 3-1 final score. Leafs win. What an entertaining finish to a fairly pedestrian, fairly low event game. But a fun note to end 2024 on as the Leafs finish off the Islanders 3-1 and end the year, as I said, off the hop on a high note. Let's move into our second period here. But before we do that, of course, want to remind you to make sure you're supporting Game Over. Make sure you're following Game Over on all the various social medias, at Game Over NHL on Twitter, at Game Over Network on Instagram. We're on Bluesky, on Facebook, and of course, make sure you're subscribing to Game Over Toronto on YouTube so that you never miss when we're live. You can rewatch the live streams after the fact, or you can subscribe to our podcast feeds on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your shows, and that way you can listen after the fact. You can listen on your way to work, on your way to school, or you're supposed to be at work or supposed to be at school. And instead of paying attention to your boss or your teacher, you can listen to us talk about the Leafs. Wouldn't that be better? So make sure you're subscribing there as well. And check out all the other Game Over shows. We've got Game Overs for all 7 Canadian teams going live after every single game in 2024 and 2025 and beyond. So do subscribe to Game Over. Moving into the second period here, let's do the traditional second period talk of goaltending and special teams, because the goaltending in this game, not really an issue. Woll only allows 1 goal. Islanders got a fair number of shots. I would say they were applying lots of. I don't think they had a lot of great chances, but they were putting a lot of pucks on net. And Joe Woll came up big, making lots of good saves for the Leafs. As I mentioned, there was kind of a concerning moment fairly early on the second period. He makes a save and makes kind of an awkward move to make it. And it appeared like he might have tweaked something in his groin. I don't have any post-game quotes up here, so I don't know if Berube or anybody else has addressed it. But he appeared to be moving a bit gingerly, which is not good. Joe Woll, of course, was unable to start Game 7 of last year's playoffs after really saving the day in Games 5 and 6 in the first round against Boston. Things were not going well for the series. For the Leafs in that series, and Joe Woll came in and kind of settled things down in Games 5 and 6, and then he gets injured on the last play of Game 6 and is unable to start Game 7 because of a groin injury. And this has been the question about Woll all year: is can he stay healthy? He started the year injured. That's why Stoller starts the season opener and gets to go on a run that kind of really cemented this tandem that we've had going, because we saw just how good Anthony Stolarz could be before he also got hurt. And so Woll just looking a little, moving a little gingerly. And after the play, they show him skating around trying to shake off the injury, and he was not moving well. Thankfully, stayed in the game. Thankfully, didn't seem to show any more signs of injury. I just did a quick search for any post-game quotes. Woll says that he's fine. It was just one of those weird little things that happens. He says, "I'm totally fine. Sometimes quick plays like that, mess up. I don't know, but it goes away. So it was fine." So it was, we can maybe breathe a little bit more easily. But we've heard that things are fine with other guys before this year. Austin Matthews springs to mind. Anthony Stolarz springs to mind. So I'm not necessarily going to expect the worst and think that maybe Woll is going to, be injured and go be on injured reserve or anything like that. But, Leafs play on Thursday. They play on January 2nd. Would it shock me if Dennis Hildeby or Matt Murray gets that start? Let's play it just a little bit safe. He looked a little off for a minute there at kind of a key point in this game. So let's give him one more rest day. Let's let either the kid or the vet, either or. It's 6 one way, half a dozen the other way who's starting. If it's Hildeby or Murray, just let one of them have the net. Give them another opportunity, and give Wool another night of rest, and then have him be ready for the weekend where there is, I believe, a back-to-back. So he likely wouldn't be starting both of those games anyways. Like I said, let Matt Murray start on Thursday. Wool can start Saturday, and then Hildeby can start Sunday. Everybody gets a turn. It's a New Year's treat, a New Year's present for everybody. Every goalie can have a go in the net. But a little bit concerning, because that, the question coming into this year or this season about the Leafs goaltending was, can they stay healthy? And this tandem that we've had has worked really well. They've been among the best goalies in the league. They've had some of the best results for goaltenders in the league. But the question of can they stay healthy, the answer has been kind of like, it hasn't been a resounding yes the way you want it to, because as we said, Wool starts the year injured, and then Stolarz gets hurt sort of midway through the season. He has a little pebble that has to be taken out of his knee, which is, that sounds terrifying. So I don't even want to think about that. And that's been the question, is can they stay healthy? And the answer has been kinda. They've never been hurt at the same time. But we are now, one more injury, one more little groin pull away from potentially a couple of weeks of Matt Murray and Dennis Hildeby having the net. And look, Matt Murray, veteran, tons of NHL experience, has won Stanley Cups, but not recently. Dennis Hildeby, young gun, potential. There's tons of potential there. He could be a goalie of the future for this team, but he hasn't shown it yet this year. So it's not like the Martin Jones situation last year where he came in and settled things down and everybody felt pretty good about things. This is a situation where you're looking at two guys that have a lot of question marks around them. If Wool and Stolarz are both hurt, and you then have to hope that both of them come back and are as healthy as they can be, as ready as they can be, and get back to where they were. That'll be the question for Stolarz, really, when he comes back, is can he get back to where he was? Because where he was incredible. It was amazing. But he has not yet. We'll find out. We'll find out when he comes back. And I'm at this point, I'm just trying to preserve Joe Wool for as long as we can. And make sure that, whatever little thing was that he was able to bounce back from and skate off tonight doesn't become something bigger. So, obviously we don't want to treat him with kid gloves because we need to see what's there. We need to see if he can stay healthy, but maybe a little bit of load management in the next week or so might do him some good. So Matt Murray, Dennis Hildeby, somebody come on down, start on Thursday. Wool can be back Saturday. Somebody else can go on Sunday. And then we'll roll into the next week and see where we're at, figure out things from there. But, to be fair, good game from Joe Wool. Made some big saves. That save on the breakaway on Brock Nelson, that was after the little injury scare. He made a couple other nice saves late in the game. Like, strong play from this guy. Like, it clearly, whatever it was, didn't linger through the game. So we can cross our fingers and our toes that remains the case for this player, and that we don't find ourselves looking at a situation where Matt Murray and Anthony Stolarz are sharing the net, Matt Murray and Dennis Hildeby are sharing the net themselves for an extended period of time. All right. The other thing is sort of our customary second period topic is the special teams. I kind of touched on this already. First unit of the power play needs to be better. Like I said, if there's a New Year's resolution, if there's a New Year's resolution for this team, it has to be get better at the power play, figure things out, because that being 19th in the league, I mean, it's better than being 30th or 32nd, which the Islanders are, and the Leafs were at earlier points of the season. But it's still not good enough, right? It's not good enough to go on an extended run in the playoffs. And like I said, you can't be taking 2 or 3 power plays to warm up. You need to be ready to go on the first one. So I don't know what the solution is. As I said, I think trying two balanced units is something that, for whatever reason, Berube hasn't wanted to do. Keefe didn't want to do it before him. Nobody seems to be willing to try that. But that feels like you got to at least try that. Like, it may not be the solution. Who knows what the solution is? But I feel like you got to at least give it a try. Give it a whirl. But we'll see. We'll see where we wind up there. But let's move on into our third period. And as we do, of course, want to remind you about the Game Over store, where you can buy all sorts of cool Game Over merch, like dun, da, 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 this t-shirt that Santa Claus brought me for Christmas. There we go. I'm trying to hold it up. There we are. Game Over Toronto. Looking good. There's the back. If you're wondering why I'm not wearing it right now, it's because I want to wear it out so that the world can see it. I know all of you watching this, you've already seen it. You know what it looks like. And you are all going to the store right now to buy it. Obviously, that's what you're doing. But I want to make sure the rest of the world sees it, so the rest of the world knows to tune into Game Over Toronto and all of the Game Over shows. But you can find the merchandise over at thegameovernetwork.com. There's hoodies, there's t-shirts like that beauty I was just holding up. There's toques, there's all sorts of good stuff. Check it out, thegameovernetwork.com. You know, Christmas has passed. Maybe you didn't get what you wanted for Christmas, so why not get yourself one of these and get yourself a present? You've earned it. You deserve it. Start 2025 off by buying something for yourself, or who needs Christmas? Buy a gift for your friend any time of the year. Just wrap it and say Santa Claus forgot it in his sleigh. Why not? Bring it on. All right. Let's move into the third period. Of course, if you're listening live, make sure you're throwing some questions and comments in the chat. We'll get to them as we go and as we move into the overtime period coming up. But as we said, this is the last show, the last game of 2024, and by extension, the last show of 2024. I can't imagine that we're going to do another in the next 7.5 hours as I look at the clock and try and do some quick math. But I thought it'd be interesting to just take maybe 5 minutes here and look back on 2024 for the Leafs, because it's been a year where a lot has happened. We've gotten a new coach, a new captain, the new goalies, new players, a whole new blue line. And all of that stems from the fact that something very familiar happened, in the first half of last year, which was another playoff exit, first round playoff exit in Game 7 to the Boston Bruins. Very familiar story. One I would very, very, very much like to not repeat in 2025. And that's, I look back on the beginning of 2024 and where we were as Leafs fans coming into that, right? We were coming off of the 2023 playoffs, where the Leafs made it into the second round for the first time and then just did horribly against the Florida Panthers, losing in 5. But for the first time, there was a feeling of like forward momentum, which was something we couldn't really say since 2019, pre-COVID. It felt like in the Matthews era, it felt like there was progression through those first couple of first round losses. God, it's so pathetic. It's so pathetic to say progression through the series of first round losses, but it did. That's what we were telling ourselves. They make the playoffs in Matthews' first year and they lose to Washington, and you think, well, they weren't even supposed to be there. They took the best team to Game 6, a couple of overtimes. Like they surprised a lot of people in what they were able to accomplish. The next year they play Boston. They go to Game 7. It's not the result you wanted, but it feels better because at least you made it one game closer. You were, one win away from getting on to the second round. The year after that, again, this is so pathetic. They had an opportunity. They in the first Boston series, the only opportunity they had to eliminate Boston was Game 7. The next one, they could have eliminated them in Game 6. I remember watching that game. I remember Riley scores early and just feeling like, yes, This is going to happen. It was a game. It was a home game too. Like, yes, here we go. It's finally going to happen. Of course, it doesn't happen. The Bruins win game 6. They win game 7, and they go on to the second round. They go. Is that the year they went all the way to the finals and lost to the Blues? I think so. Yeah. Then, so again, you're feeling like there's forward momentum. Then the bubble playoff happens. Let's not talk about that. Lose to Columbus. Montreal series the year after that. Again, that one felt like a step back. It's first Tampa series. Again, you lose in game 7. You feel like you got screwed a little bit by the refs in that game, which, you kind of did. I hate to be that guy. I hate to chide the referees. I hate to be the one who says the refs cost us the game. Yeah, I kind of got screwed in that one. But you should have won game 6. Should have eliminated them in game 6. I was, again, had the opportunity. And that was the point where it felt like things had really stalled. Columbus, Montreal, Tampa won. That was the years where it felt like it's kind of stalled. 2023, they win, and it's like forward momentum. It feels like we're moving in the right direction. And then in the 2024 playoffs, you're all of a sudden it feels like we've just fallen off. We've fallen back. Like they're on the verge of being eliminated in game 5. Matthew Nyes scores the winner in overtime, forces game 6. William Nylander puts the team on his back and forces game 7 in Boston. And then in game 7, you're in overtime, you're a shot away. But it was a step back. It was a step back. There is no way anymore where you can feel like there's any progression through the first round. That ended with the second Boston series. And everything like that felt like being stalled or moving backwards since then. Columbus, Montreal, Tampa all felt like they either had stalled or were moving backwards. So you came into 2024 with a lot of hope, and a lot of that hope felt dashed by that playoff series. Now you're looking at it going, how do we move forward? Because that's what we need. Now, the way hockey works, the way the sport calendar, or the hockey calendar works is that, when the playoffs end, you're immediately planning for next year, not just next season, but the next calendar year. You're like, how do I not feel this way I feel in 2024, in 2025? How do we win? How do we succeed? And they make a lot of changes. They fire Sheldon Keefe. I always liked Sheldon Keefe, but he obviously couldn't get the job done here. He's out. Craig Berube comes in. They change captains. John Tavares still a huge part of this team, still kind of being captain while Matthews has been out for so much of this year. But he passes the torch to Austin Matthews, get a new captain, revamp the blue line in big ways. TJ Brody out the door, Timothy Liljegren out the door, Mark Giordano out the door. Riley sticks around. Tanev comes in. OEL comes in. Connor Timmins gets another chance, which was great to see, and he's really taken advantage of. Jake McCabe has stepped up and played very well. Still no sign of Yanni Hakanpää, but we'll see whatever happens there. So they revamp the blue line, and that has been a genuine strength of this team in this season so far. But through all of that, we've also seen them take a little bit of a step back in scoring. A big part of that, obviously, is Austin Matthews has spent a huge portion of this year being injured. And, he scored 70 or almost 70 goals last year. 70, we'll count the one he scored in the playoffs. Another pathetic statement. We'll count the one he scored in the playoffs. And it counted as 70 goals last season, playoffs and regular season combined. And now he's out, and they're trying to, find scoring in other places. Matthew Nyes has maybe taken a little bit of a step back lately, but that's still after a huge step forward at the start of this year. Mitch Marner kind of got off to a slow start. Tavares got off to a slow start, but they have both found their games and have both been excelling. John Tavares in particular has really been excelling. And William Nylander, yes, he's on I guess now 5-game goalless streak, but, I think we probably all thought that if Austin Matthews isn't in the Rocket Richard conversation, then no Maple Leaf is in the Rocket Richard conversation. And Nylander, obviously, he hasn't picked up all the slack for Matthews. Like, that's just not possible for almost anybody whose name isn't Connor McDavid or Nathan McKinnon or Leon Draisaitl in this league to do that. But he's picked up a lot of it and has been a huge part of this team in 2024. So, as it always is with the Leafs, as it always is, I think, for any team, unless you win the Stanley Cup and get off to a great start the next year, it's been a mixed bag. That loss, the series loss to Boston, was a real low. They should have won that series. There's no excuses for that. There's no excuses for how badly they played in the first 4 games. And yes, they were able to claw back into the series, but it should have never have gotten to that point. They should have won that series. They were, I do believe they were the better team in theory on paper, but they were unable to do that. So you remake the team, you remake the coaching staff, you remake the blue line, and you hope that the forwards can continue doing what they were doing. And again, mixed result. Blue line's been great. Forwards, we've seen lots of good things. There's one big thing that's missing, of course, being number 34, who also, of course, is the captain. So you're also without your captain for a while. So it was a big exciting. It's been a big interesting year, right? Like it's been all over. There've been some pretty decent highs. Again, Matthews winning the Rocket, seeing all the moves in the offseason, and some pretty big lows, again, with the Boston series and how poorly that went. So we'll see what 2025 brings. And let's hope it's at least a first round. Hope it's at least a first round victory, if not more. Again, after a step back last year, or this year, because we're still in 2024, let's hope they can take a huge step forward in 2025. We'll move on into our overtime period here. Luke Venables had a whole bunch of great comments in the chat, and then Lauren Williamson, our usual co-host, came in and deleted them all somehow. This is incredible, Lauren. I'm impressed. I'm impressed that you were able to do that. I'm looking at the live chat here on my phone, and all I see is message deleted by Lauren Williamson. Although I can see what they were. There is an option here to bring back the messages. So let me, or at least for me. So let me bring back some of these from Luke, because he posted some interesting thoughts, some good thoughts. Again, he was at the game today. Very, very, very exciting for him that he got to see that and be part of it. But he was actually right near the stick that went over the glass. Listen to this. That happened about 4 seats away from me. A guy came over a few minutes later and tried to buy it from the person who got it. Pulled out several $100 notes, but no deal. Wow. You know what? Good on that fan. Good on that fan. That he resisted the urge and kept the stick. Keep the stick. That's awesome. You're all sitting in the gold and platinum seats at Scotiabank Arena. Yeah, I don't think you're going to be swayed by a couple of $100, but take the experience, take the memory of getting the stick. That's very funny that somebody came over there with with some money to try and buy the stick. That's hilarious. I love people. That's terrific. Also Luke dropping this little bit of a defense of Ryan Reeves here. I'm gonna say Revo does a little bit off camera too, pushes D-men out of position, just generally annoys people. Yeah, that's something that you get when you're at the game, right? At TV, or when we're watching it on TV, we are limited in what we can see by what they're pointing the camera at. And so there is a whole other game that goes on just outside of the frame of our television, because we can't see everything. If they just left it on the bird's eye view of the rink, we'd probably be able to see more, but it would be a lesser experience. The camera operators and the directors and the guys in the truck, the folks in the truck, I should say, not just guys. They do a really terrific job to heighten the experience, to make it kind of cinematic with the replays and the different angles, and making you feel like you're not just in the stands, but you're sometimes on the ice or right up against the glass. So I'm not saying I want them to put the bird's eye view shot on, but you do miss something when you're not there. I remember having this realization, as many moons ago at a Leafs game, sitting up in the 300 level and just realizing, oh, you can see the play develop in a way that you just can't on TV when you're in the building. So for as great as they've made the TV viewing experience, there's something special about being there, and you do get a whole other perspective on the game that you watched. And that's why it was ridiculous when they weren't sending Joe Bowen to the games, when they were having him do the away games remotely. You can do it. He did fine, but I don't think he's celebrating Morgan Riley scoring the game-winning goal in Game 6 against Tampa, when really it was John Tavares who scores, if he's in the arena, because you see it differently when you're there than you do on television. So good stuff. Good stuff from Luke there. Yeah, and one more. We'll go with one more from Luke here. It says, Lorentz and Robertson, if they got rewarded as much as they deserve for their effort, they would score 70 goals this season. I will say, Robertson has picked up his game a lot. Has picked up his game a lot in the last little while. He's definitely stepped up to, be a big part of this team, to play better. He has gotten some goals of late. He has started to be rewarded. But even as he's cooled down a little bit, that third line has cooled down a little bit. I feel like he is still the one of those three who is creating the most opportunities. He's still the one who gets shots on goal, who finds himself sort of going 1-on-3 with the defense, who sort of puts himself in positions where he almost succeeds, and I don't know if he'd had 70, but he definitely, you feel it when he's not succeeding, because you can just see he's trying so hard. He's putting in so much effort, and it would be nice for 2025 to see things turn around for old Nick Robertson there. But I think that's where we're going to leave things tonight and this year here on Game Over Toronto. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Game Over Toronto will be back on January 2nd as the Leafs get their first action of the new year. Thank you, everybody, for who's listened today, who has listened at any point this season. It's been such a fun and unexpected aspect of 2024 for me, and I'm sure for Zach and for Lauren as well, that we've been able to do this show and talk about the Leafs with all of you and have this dialogue about this team who are at a really, really interesting juncture. So a definite highlight of my 2024 has been doing the show, and I hope you've all enjoyed being a part of it as well. But that's gonna do it. Hope everybody has fun tonight if you're going out, or get some good rest to start the new year if you're not. So stay safe, happy new year, and we'll see you in 2025.